I'm standing here in Seoul, South Korea, breathing freely, but 5 years ago, I was standing 4 stories underground at the Yongbyon nuclear facility in North Korea, under a flickering radiation warning light. My name is Kim Sung-hyuk. It's an alias, but it's the name I'll use to share my story with you. I hold a PhD in physics, and in the country I once called my homeland, I was a scientist involved in developing nuclear weapons. It was 3 o'clock in the afternoon, June 2019. I was in the 3rd underground lab at the Yongbyon Nuclear Research Center, measuring radiation levels. I was wearing a white protective suit, standing behind a lead shield, looking into my instruments. Comrade, take a look at this. A senior researcher handed me a stack of documents. They were health examination records for residents living near the test sites, covering the previous 3 years. The moment I looked at the numbers, my hands began to tremble. Thyroid cancer rates 13 times higher than average leukemia cases, up 410%. Birth defects numbers. I still struggle to say out loud, this data must never be leaked outside. You understand that? He said quietly. I nodded, but at that moment, all I could think about was my 13-year-old daughter's face. And if this video has been helpful, please don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button. Your support helps us share the truth about North Korea. Turn on notifications so you won't miss the next story. That night, I couldn't sleep, not even in our 30 Pyong apartment in Pyongyang's scientists' district, what many in North Korea would call a privileged home. My wife and children were fast asleep. I stood by the living room window, staring out at the lights of Moranbong. In the distance, Pyongyang's nightscape glittered, but to me, every light looked like a lie. I was 41 at the time. I had graduated at the top of my class from Kim Il-sung University, had been honored by the state as a national hero, and my uranium enrichment work had become a key element of the nuclear program. But that night, for the first time, I truly understood the technology I'd created. The research I believed was protecting my country was actually poisoning the land my children would grow up on. My daughter, Yongbyon, was in her 2nd year of middle school. My son, Jin-hyuk, was in 3rd grade, both of them bright, curious, full of promise. But the numbers in that report made me wonder whether they even had a future. Dad, why aren't you sleeping? Yongbyon had woken up and approached me quietly. I quickly wiped my tears and hugged her. It's nothing, I was just thinking about work. Dad, you're doing such important things for our country. My teacher said you're a great scientist protecting us from the American imperialists. When I saw the innocence in her eyes, I made up my mind. We had to leave. I had to teach my children the truth. I had to take them somewhere they could breathe free air, not radioactive dust. And from that night on, I began planning something that should have been impossible. A top-level nuclear scientist escaping North Korea with his entire family. This is the true story of how I escaped the land of death and found my way to freedom. When people think of Pyongyang, they usually picture the gleaming buildings and spotless streets, and that's not entirely wrong. At least the few streets they show to foreign journalists. My family lived in the Daesong district, in the special residential zone for scientists. Only a tiny fraction of North Koreans were allowed to live there. It was reserved for the families of scientists involved in nuclear and missile development. My day always began at 6:30 a.m. sharp. The morning loudspeakers would start blaring revolutionary songs, and I'd get out of bed and walk into the living room. On the wall hung portraits of Kim Il-sung and Kim Jong-il, side-by-side portraits. We were required to wipe clean every Saturday with a special cloth. Honey, they said, we're getting rations today. My wife, Suki, called from the kitchen in North Korea. The word rations could mean the difference between life and death, but for people like us, the so-called privileged class, they were mostly ceremonial. We had access to separate special supplies from the state. I heard they're giving out Chinese rice this month, she said. Really? That'll be good for the kids' nutrition. Back then, I didn't realize how absurd those conversations were. Rice, just rice, was a privilege, and anything imported from China was considered premium. That was the country I lived in. At 7 a.m., the kids woke up. Yongbyon put on her middle school uniform, and Jinhyuk wore his elementary school outfit, red necktie, badge, crisp white shirt, everything exactly by regulation. Dad, we have a memorization test today, Yongbyon said while eating breakfast. It's on Marshal Kim Jong-un's teachings. Did you memorize it? Yes, it starts with science and technology are the lifeline of building a strong socialist nation. That one. I nodded, but inside I sighed. My daughter should have been learning math and science, not political slogans. At 8 a.m., I boarded the shuttle bus to the research center. Only scientists could ride it. Ordinary Pyongyang residents walked or took the tram, but we had cushioned seats and heat. In the winter, conversations on the bus were always cautious. Dr. Kim, did you see yesterday's test results? Yes, they were better than expected. Good. The higher-ups were putting a lot of pressure on us. The higher-ups in North Korea. That meant the workers' party leadership. We never said the party or the leader out loud. Everything was monitored, or at least we believed it was. The ride to Yongbyon took about an hour and a half. As the bus left Pyongyang, the shine faded. The modern skylines gave way to crumbling buildings and parched farmland. That was the real North Korea. At the research compound, we went through 3 layers of security every single day. ID check, fingerprint scan, facial recognition, and then a full-body search. I had a PhD, yet I was treated like a potential criminal. Comrade Kim Sung-hyuk, there's a party self-criticism session today, a security officer informed me. The party self-criticism session, North Korea's version of mandatory ideological confession. At 3 p.m., 15 researchers gathered in a small meeting room. Slogans like self-reliance and arduous march covered the walls, and, as always, the leaders' portraits hung at the front. Comrades, the party secretary began, we will review our work from the past week and reflect on our shortcomings. I hated these sessions. It was an hour of colleagues spying on each other, tattling, and trying to outdo each other in displays of loyalty. I failed to study the Marshal's teachings thoroughly during last week's experiment preparations. I will show greater devotion from now on. One researcher stood and said one after another. People repeated similar lines for more than an hour. At 6 p.m., when I arrived home, My wife was preparing dinner: white rice, kimchi, soybean paste stew, and stir-fried pork. In North Korea, fewer than 1 in 100 people could eat like that, Dad. During English class today, the teacher said all Americans are demons. Jin-hyuk said with complete innocence. Really? Well, listen to your teacher, I replied outwardly, but inside, my heart ached. My children were being taught to hate, to see half the world as the enemy. After dinner, our family gathered in the living room and turned on the TV. Korean Central Television was showing Kim Jong-un giving his on-the-spot guidance, just like every night where he went, what he inspected, how overjoyed the people were. Honey, my wife whispered. My sister Soo-hye called. What did she say? Things are bad in Chongjin. Rations haven't come for 3 months, and the children, they're malnourished. She couldn't finish her sentence. While we ate pork, other families in the same country were starving. At 10 p.m., after putting the kids to bed, I stood again by the window. Pyongyang's night lights shimmered beautifully, but beyond those lights, I knew there was darkness, filled with suffering I had never seen. I opened my laptop. I looked through the files I had brought from the lab: radiation contamination maps, health damage reports, hidden accident records. The life I lived, the privileges I enjoyed were built on someone else's suffering. The food on my table came at the cost of someone else's hunger. My safety was guaranteed by someone else's death. Honey, can't sleep? My wife asked, coming out of the bedroom. I hesitated for a long time, then I spoke quietly. Suki, I've been thinking. About what? About the kids' future. She looked into my eyes, and in that moment, I knew she had been thinking the same thing. That night, we sat together in silence, holding each other's hands, staring out at the Pyongyang skyline. Somewhere among those lights, we believed, was our family's way out. In July 2019, I experienced the most shocking moment of my life. That morning, I was urgently summoned to the director's office. A call from the director was almost never good news. I knocked on the door, with a knot in my stomach. Come in. The director was a man in his mid-60s, a veteran scientist, practically the living history of North Korea's nuclear program. Drive. Kim, I'm assigning you a special mission. Yes, sir. You're to conduct a radiation contamination survey around the Punggye-ri nuclear test site in Gilju County, North Hamgyong Province. This mission is top secret. Punggye-ri, the site where North Korea had carried out 6 nuclear tests. When do I leave? I asked. Tomorrow at 5 a.m. 2 state security agents will accompany you. This mission must never be revealed to anyone. The next morning, before dawn, I got into a black sedan. 2 security agents sat in the front and back, their eyes cold and unblinking. The drive from Pyongyang to North Hamgyong took about 8 hours. Once the paved road ended, the car shook violently over dirt paths. Outside the window, the scenery grew more barren. By the mile, that's Gilju County, the driver said, pointing toward the distant mountains. Among them was Mount Mantap, under which North Korea conducted its nuclear tests. Our first stop was the Gilju County People's Hospital. I put on a protective suit and grabbed my radiation detection equipment as the hospital director greeted us. Comrades, this way, he said. He led us to a special isolation ward in the basement. The moment I opened the door, I felt the air leave my lungs, 15 patients lay in beds. They ranged from teenagers to people in their 50s, but their condition, it was unlike anything I had ever seen in any textbook. These patients all live within a 10-kilometer radius of Pyongyang, the director said quietly. What symptoms are they showing? I asked. Acute radiation syndrome, vomiting, hair loss, skin necrosis, immune system collapse. I approached the first bed. A young man, maybe 20 years old. Most of his hair was gone. His skin was raw and peeling. Comrade, I asked gently, when did this begin? Last year, about a month after the nuclear test, he whispered. At first, I thought it was just a cold fever, vomiting. Then my hair started falling out. I moved to the next bed. A woman in her 37 months, pregnant. The fetus has been affected as well, a nurse explained. The ultrasound shows congenital abnormalities. I closed my eyes. The technology I had developed, what I thought I was doing for my country, had led to this. Dr. Kim, we need to move on to the village, one of the security agents said sharply. We drove to a small village, about 5 kilometers from the test site. As soon as we arrived, I switched on my radiation detector. Beep 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 beep. The device screamed with alarm. The reading was 30 microsieverts per hour, more than 200 times normal. Background radiation. People live here? I asked. Yes, around 200. The agent replied. The houses were worn down and crumbling. Almost no one was outside. The few residents we did see looked noticeably unwell. A man in his 50s was sweeping his yard. I approached him. Comrade, have you lived here long? Over 30 years. Have you had any health problems recently? He hesitated, glanced around nervously, and lowered his voice. Many people in this village have died just last year. 20 people. What did they die from? We don't know. The hospital says they don't know either. People just collapse, cough up blood, and then he trailed off. I couldn't bring myself to ask more. Toward evening, we visited the village school. It served both elementary and middle school students. There were fewer than 10 kids in the classroom. How many students did the school have originally? I asked. More than 80. 5 years ago, the teacher said quietly. And the others, they transferred out, or she couldn't finish. But I understood. That night, I stayed in a small inn in Gilju County. The security agents were in the next room, but I sat alone by the window. In my hands were the day's measurements: soil contamination, water contamination, airborne radiation levels, every number, far beyond safe limits. The cancer statistics were the most devastating. Within a 10-kilometer radius of Pyongyang, thyroid cancer rates were 15 times the national average. Leukemia cases were 20 times higher. The rate of babies born with congenital defects was something I could not bring myself to write down. I opened my laptop and tried to start the report, but my hands were shaking too hard to type. Is this the reality of the country I dedicated my life to? Was I called a hero because I helped create weapons that killed my own people? I couldn't sleep. Whenever I closed my eyes, I saw the patients in the isolation ward. Whenever I covered my ears, I heard the voices of the villagers. The next morning, on the way back to Pyongyang, one of the agents turned to me. Dr. Kim, everything you saw on this mission is a state secret. You must never tell anyone, not even your family. I understand, I said. If this Information leaks, he said quietly. You and your family. Will he didn't finish, but he didn't need to. When I arrived home, my wife and children greeted me at the door. Dad, where did you go? Yongbyon asked. I was just on a business trip, I said, hugging her tightly. Her small body radiated warmth and life. My children were healthy, they were happy, they had a future. But what about the children in Gilju County? Why did they have no future? Why did some children in North Korea live safely in Pyongyang, while others were poisoned by radiation? That night, I made up my mind. We had to leave. When my children grew up and learned the truth, I wanted to be a father they could respect, a father who didn't stay silent, a father who chose to do the right thing, deciding to escape from North Korea and actually doing it were two completely different things. My situation was far more complicated than that of an ordinary citizen. I was a scientist, handling ultra-classified information related to the nuclear weapons program, one of the top surveillance targets of the state security department. There were always eyes and ears around me, and I wasn't alone. I had my wife, my 13-year-old daughter, and my 9-year-old son. All four of us would have to escape together. In early August 2019, I carefully brought it up with my wife Suki. We need to have a serious talk. What's going on? We waited until the kids were asleep and sat on the living room couch. I turned the TV up loud in case the apartment was bugged. I've been thinking about how we could leave this place. Her eyes widened. Leave? Go where? South. She held her breath. In North Korea. South was a forbidden word, honey. Be realistic. Do you think that's even possible? You're a nuclear scientist. The security department watches you constantly. I know, but Suki, after what I saw in Hamgyong province, if our kids grow up here, I couldn't finish. She squeezed my hand. I know, this isn't normal, but if we fail, our whole family, that's why we have to plan carefully. We'll take at least a year to prepare. She stayed silent for a long time, then slowly nodded. When do we tell the kids? Not until the very last moment, if they say anything at school. And so, that night, we began crafting what felt like an impossible plan. The first problem was money. Escaping from North Korea required a huge amount: broker fees, travel expenses, emergency funds, at least $50,000. I started saving whatever I could from my salary at the research institute. North Korean won was meaningless, so I had to convert everything into Chinese yuan or US dollars. Dr. Ri, can you exchange some money into yuan? I quietly asked a colleague I trusted. How much? About $1,000. That's a big amount. What's going on? My wife's relative in China needs hospital treatment. He looked at me suspiciously, but fortunately, didn't press further. Over the next 3 months, I slowly accumulated foreign currency. Sometimes I even sold laboratory materials on the black market, a crime that could cost me my life, but I had no choice. The second problem was the escape route. There were two main ways to flee North Korea. The first was crossing into China. That was the most common route, but for someone like me, a nuclear scientist, that was out of the question. Security checks near the border were far too strict. The second option was going through Russia. North Korean laborers were regularly sent there, and some people escaped by blending into that system. I approached the institute Director cautiously Director, I'd like to join the scientific exchange program in Russia. Why all of a sudden? I think combining my research with Russian technology could advance our work. He thought for a moment and nodded. I'll look into it, but taking your family might be difficult. It would be ideal if they could come. It would help with the children's education. That's up to the party. Just wait 3 months. Past no approval. I had to look for something else. The third issue was timing. When would we leave? Honey, I think next spring might be best. My wife said, why spring? It won't be too hot or too cold, and the river won't be frozen. She was right, but I had another concern. By next spring, Yongbyon will be in senior middle school. The ideological indoctrination gets even stronger. Then shouldn't we leave sooner? But we're not prepared. We had conversations like this every night. Lights off, voices barely above a whisper, always wary of hidden microphones. The fourth issue was finding a broker. How would we locate someone who could get us out? By chance, I stumbled on a lead during a casual conversation with the cleaning lady at the institute. Dr. Kim, you look tired. These days everything okay? Oh, just busy with research. My nephew lives in China. He can help get medicine if you need any. My ears perked up. Does your nephew go to China often? Yes, he works in trade, travels through Sinai. From that day, I made an effort to get closer to her, sharing cigarettes, bringing small gifts, gradually building trust. 2 months later, I finally met her nephew at a small restaurant near the Pyongyang marketplace. I heard you were looking for me. He said he was in his mid-30s, sharp-eyed, cautious. I'm trying to understand the situation in China. What kind of situation? I looked around, leaned in, and whispered, do you know the way to the south? His face stiffened. Doctor, that's a dangerous question. I know, but I've made up my mind. My whole family will go. He studied me for a long moment, then nodded slowly. Prepare $10,000. On the 15th of next month, same place. We'll talk details then. From that day, I began preparing in earnest. We sold every piece of jewelry in the house. I converted all the awards and bonuses I'd received into foreign currency. I even sold my Kim Il-sung medal on the black market. It was a crime, punishable by death, but I didn't hesitate. Honey, this is everything we've gathered so far. One night, my wife brought out a small cloth bundle stuffed with yuan and dollars. Where did all this come from? I sold my wedding ring, and the gold hairpin my mother gave me. Her eyes were filled with tears. I pulled her close. I'm sorry you've had to go through this, but it will all be over soon. We're going to a place where our kids can breathe freely. Do you think we can really do it? We have to, and we can. We're a scientist and a teacher. We're the kind of people who make the impossible possible. In October 2019, the broker finally contacted me. We're ready. November 15th, 11 p.m. Meet near the Amnok River Railway Bridge in Sinaju. $50,000 upfront. The rest you can pay after you reach South Korea. Understood. I hung up and stared at the calendar. 1 month and 15 days until November 15. Just 45 days left until our family's freedom. 5 p.m. November 14, 2019. I left the research center just like any other day. I waved to my coworkers and said, see you tomorrow. But they didn't know They didn't know that those were my final words to them. When I arrived home, my wife was cooking dinner. Everything looked normal, but I could see her hands trembling, ever so slightly. Where are the kids? In their room, doing homework. We hadn't told them anything. If they said even one wrong word at school, everything would fall apart. At 6 p.m., the whole family sat around the table. Mom, why do we have so many side dishes today? Jin Hyuk asked, surprised. Oh, I was just in a good mood, my wife said, forcing a smile. I looked at each of my children, carefully thinking about what they were about to go through. Felt like my chest was being ripped open. At 9 p.m., it was time for the kids to go to bed. Yongbyon, Jin Hyuk, let's sleep a little early tonight. Why? We have school tomorrow, Yongbyon asked. I just have to leave early for work in the morning. They didn't question it, and went to their room. As I closed the door, I looked around one last time. Her dolls, the drawings on the wall, the textbooks on the desk. Once we left, all of it would become evidence. At 10 p.m., I packed 2 small backpacks, only the bare minimum, some clothes, cash, and my identification papers, nothing more. We had to abandon everything. Honey, we're really doing this? My wife asked. If we give up now, we'll be trapped here forever. The kids too. I know, it's just I'm scared. I'm scared too, but we have to do this. At 11 p.m., I gently woke the kids. Yongbyon, Jin Hyuk, wake up. Huh? Dad, what time is it? Quiet, listen carefully. We're going on a trip. A trip? Right now? Yongbyon asked, startled. Yes, a special trip, but you can't make any noise. Understand? They didn't understand what was happening, but they nodded. I bundled them in thick clothes. North Korean nights in November were already below freezing. At midnight, our family slipped out of the apartment. The hallway was silent. We avoided the elevator and took the stairs 10 flights down. My heart felt like it might burst. Dad, where are we going? Jin Hyuk asked nervously. You'll find out soon. Just be patient outside. The icy wind hit our faces. We walked toward the meeting spot, a narrow alley behind Pyongyang Station. This is where he told us to wait. About 5 minutes later, an old cargo truck approached. The driver rolled down his window. Dr. Kim, yes, get in. We don't have much time. We climbed into the back of the truck. There were already about 5 people inside. Stay quiet. There are 3 checkpoints. The truck started moving. The cargo hold was dark and cramped. Jin Hyuk clung to me, trembling. Dad, I'm scared. It's okay, I'm right here. After about an hour, the truck suddenly stopped. Checkpoint, do not make a sound outside. I heard soldiers' voices. Papers here. What's in the truck? Factory supplies. Open it. My heart stopped. If they opened that door, it was over. Comrade, want a cigarette? The driver offered one. I heard the familiar sound of money changing hands. Fine, go ahead. The truck rolled forward again. Inside, people exhaled in relief. The second and third checkpoints went the same way. Bribes in North Korea, money can move anything. At 3 a.m., the truck stopped. We're here, get out. It was pitch black outside. I held the kids' hands tightly as we climbed down. We were surrounded by dense forest. From here, we walk. Follow me, the guide whispered. We walked single file through the woods. Thorns tore at our clothes. Rocks tripped our feet. Mom, my legs hurt. Jin Hyuk whined. Just a little longer. We're almost there. After about an hour, I heard water ahead. That's the Tumen River, the guide said, quietly. The Tumen River, the border between North Korea and China, the line between prison and freedom. The water is shallow right now, only up to your waist, but be careful. Chinese border guards patrol that side. When do we cross? Right now they're patrol. Past 10 minutes ago. We have about 20 minutes. I looked at my children. They were shaking with fear. Kids, listen to me. We're going to cross the river. You must stay completely silent. Understand? Dad, why are we doing this? What kind of trip is this? Yongbyon asked, choking back tears. I hugged her and told her the truth for the first time. Yongbyon, we're going to find freedom, a place where you can learn what you truly want, where you can dream real dreams. But our home, my school, we won't have those anymore. But it's okay, we'll have a new home, a better one. Let's go, the guide urged. I carried Jin Hyuk on my back. My wife held Yongbyo's hand step by step. We entered the icy water. It rose to our knees, our thighs, our waists. It's so cold. Jin Hyuk whimpered on my back. Just hold on, we're almost there. Halfway across, a beam of light suddenly flashed from the opposite bank. Who's there? A voice shouted in Chinese. It was the border patrol. Run now. We splashed frantically through the water. The kids screamed. Gunshots rang out behind us. Bang, bang, bang. Water exploded beside us. We're almost there. Hurry. And then we reached the far bank. Chinese soil. I grabbed my children tightly and looked back. Across the Tumen River was North Korea, the place where I was born, where I studied, where I worked, the place I once called my homeland, a place I could never return to. Honey, we did it, my wife said, crying. No, I said, this is just the beginning. The real danger starts now. The moment we set foot on Chinese soil, I thought I would finally feel free. But the reality was nothing like that. For North Korean defectors, China was just another hell. It was 4 in the morning, barely 5 minutes after climbing up the riverbank. We were already sprinting back into the forest. Our clothes were soaked, our bodies numb from the cold, but we couldn't stop. There's a car waiting about 3 kilometers from here, the guide whispered as he pushed forward through the trees. I kept Jin Hyuk on my back, and my wife practically dragged Yongbyon along. 3 kilometers, normally a 30-minute walk, took us over an hour. In our condition there, someone called out at last. A narrow farm road appeared, and an old minivan sat parked at the end of it. Hurry, get in, the police patrol this area. We climbed inside. There were blankets prepared in the back. I stripped off the kids' wet clothes and wrapped them up. Dad, we're safe now, right? Yongbyal's voice trembled. Yeah, we're safe now, but that was a lie. In China, defectors aren't refugees, they're criminals. The Chinese government sends them back to North Korea under an agreement, and once they're sent back, I couldn't even bear to think about what would happen. We drove for about 3 hours. Dawn broke, revealing the quiet farmlands of Jilin province. Get out here, the guide said. The van stopped in front of an old 2-story brick house with peeling paint. You'll hide here for 2 days until I arrange the next route. He led us into a basement room, small, windowless, poorly ventilated, but we had no choice. You'll get food twice a day. Don't go outside. Don't make noise. When he left, only our family remained. Is this your idea of freedom? My wife asked bitterly. Not yet, I said. But the real freedom is coming soon. The first day passed quietly. We were too exhausted to do anything but sleep. But on the second day, things went wrong. Jin Hyuk came down with a fever. He's burning up. My wife cried. One touch told me it was well over 102 degrees. He must have caught a cold from the river. Do we have medicine? No, nothing. I pounded on the door until someone finally opened it. A Chinese man. What is it? Our son's sick. Please, can you get some medicine? No, you can't go outside, and neither can I buy anything. Too many police around here. But he's the guide. Will come tomorrow night. Tell him. He shut the door again. I felt helpless, completely powerless. That night, the fever got worse. Jin Hyuk tossed and turned, groaning, drifting in and out of delirium. Mom, I want to go home. Our house. Just a little longer. Sweetheart, you'll be okay, my wife whispered, through tears. The next evening, the guide returned. We're moving tonight, but my son, you have to go. Staying here is too dangerous. A defector family was caught in the next village yesterday. My wife and I locked eyes. We had no choice. At 10 that night, we climbed into another vehicle, a cargo truck this time. About 10 other defectors huddled inside the dark compartment. You'll be in here for 2 days. There will be checkpoints. Don't make a sound. The truck rumbled to life. Inside was pitch black and suffocating. Jin Hyuk whimpered in my arms. Hours later, the truck stopped. Documents, please, a voice barked. Outside, my heart froze. Where are you headed? Beijing. Delivering cargo. Open the back. The latch clanked. The door creaked open. We stayed absolutely still, hidden behind stacks of boxes at the very back. The officers only checked the front and shut the door. Go ahead. We exhaled quietly, but deep down, we knew there would be more. For 2 days, we endured hell. No bathroom, no proper food, barely any sleep, and Jin Hyuk grew worse. Honey, something's wrong, my wife whispered, trembling. His breathing was rapid, eyes unfocused, skin burning hot. Jin Hyuk, can you hear me? Dad, stay with me. Son, we're almost there. Just hang on. I slammed on the truck wall. Please stop. My son needs help. But the truck kept racing on, my cries swallowed by the engine. That night we finally stopped in an industrial area near Beijing. Get out. Another guide will take over from here. I lifted Jin Hyuk, and his body went limp in my arms. Jin Hyuk, we need a hospital, my wife screamed. The new guide rushed us into a van. 20 minutes later, we arrived at a small, private clinic. Are you defectors? The Chinese doctor asked bluntly. Yes, please save my son. It's pneumonia, a severe case. A few more days. And he didn't finish the sentence. They hooked him to and pumped antibiotics into his tiny body. I sat beside him, holding his small hand. Jin Hyuk, I'm sorry, this is all my fault. I couldn't stop crying. In seeking freedom, I had dragged my son to the edge of death. 2 days later, he opened his eyes. Dad, where are we? A hospital. You're okay now? Did we reach South Korea? No, not yet. We're still in China, but we'll get there. Just hold. On the bill was 5,000 yuan, almost a third of everything we had, but it didn't matter. He was alive. A week later, we were on the move again, this time toward the Laos border. 4 more days of travel. Trains, buses, trucks, avoiding checkpoints, hiding from police, bribing our way through danger. Mom, when will we get there? Soon, honey, just a little longer. But even I didn't know what soon meant anymore. 20 days in China felt like the longest, darkest stretch of my life in North Korea. I was a political prisoner in China. I was an illegal fugitive. I kept asking myself at the end of this endless journey, will we finally find true freedom? December 11, 2019. We finally reached a border town in southern China. After another long drive from Pyongyang in Yunnan province, we arrived at a small village near the Laos border. This is the most dangerous part, the new broker warned. He was a Chinese man of Laotian descent. Once you cross into Laos, another guide will be waiting. Just follow his instructions. Is Laos safe? I asked. Safer than China, but the Laotian police want bribes to make sure you have enough money. We had just over $20,000 left. We had started with 50, but more than half had vanished during the 20 days in China. At 9 that night, we crossed the border again, this time in darkness, not through a river, but over a mountain. We climbed a steep trail for more than 2 hours. Jin Hyuk was well enough to walk on his own now, but Yongbyon kept collapsing from exhaustion. Hang in there, sweetheart, we're almost there. Dad, my legs hurt so much. I'll carry you. Come on. I carried my 13-year-old daughter on my back, feeling the warmth of her breath against my neck. Past midnight, we finally stepped onto Laotian soil. There's the car, the broker said. A faint light flickered in the distance. We made our way toward it. Are you Dr. Kim's family? A man asked in broken Korean. When we arrived, yes, I answered. Follow me. We have to get to Vientiane, the capital of Laos. From there, we needed to cross into Thailand. Our 2 days in Laos were comparatively peaceful. The authorities weren't as strict as in China, and the brokers' network there was well organized. We stayed in a small guest house in Vientiane. For the first time in weeks, we slept on real beds and took hot showers. Honey, it feels like a dream, my wife said as she stepped out of the bathroom. It's not a dream, we're really doing this. How much farther do we have to go? Once we reach Thailand, we can go to the South Korean embassy, then it's over. But the Thai border was the final and most critical hurdle. December 13, we drove from Vientiane to a small border village, about an hour away, across the Mekong River. Lay Thailand. Wait here, the broker said. I need to check the situation on the Thai side. We waited in a small riverside restaurant. 1 hour, past 2 hours still. No broker. Honey, something doesn't feel right. Let's give it a little more time. By the 3rd hour, he finally returned, his face pale. There's a problem. What kind of problem? The Thai police tightened their patrols. We can't cross today. Then when? I don't know, maybe a few days. We had no choice but to return to Vientiane. A week passed. The broker kept saying, just a little longer, but our money was running out. Honey, we only have $5,000 left. I know, but what can we do? We have to wait. December 21st, Christmas was approaching. North Korea didn't celebrate Christmas, but the streets of Vientiane were decorated with lights. Mom, what's that shiny thing? Jin Hyuk asked, pointing at a Christmas tree outside a shop. That's called a Christmas tree. It's for celebrating the birth of Jesus. Who's Jesus? I couldn't explain. Religion was banned in North Korea, and I barely knew anything myself. December 23rd. At last, the broker contacted us. We're crossing tomorrow. Get ready. That night, I couldn't sleep. I stared at the Mekong River, outside our window. Tomorrow it ends, I told myself tomorrow, my family will finally be free. December 24th, Christmas Eve. We woke up at 4 a.m. The broker came to get us. Today's plan is simple. We take a boat across the Mekong. On the Thai side, our partner will be waiting. Is it dangerous? Yes, but it's the only way. At 5 a.m., we boarded a small wooden boat. It was old, and water seeped in through the cracks. Here we go, the broker said, as the engine coughed to life. The Mekong River was wider than I had imagined. As we reached the middle, dawn began to break. Dad, look, Yongbyon pointed. The Thai riverbank was visible in the distance. We're almost there, just a little more. Then, suddenly a loud engine behind us, a fast boat, was approaching. Laotian police, the broker shouted, can't you go faster? This is the fastest it goes. The police boat closed in. A voice blared through a loudspeaker in Laotian, stop immediately or we will open fire. Honey, what do we do? Keep going. We just need to reach the Thai side. We pushed forward. The Thai riverbank was less than 100 meters away. Bang! A warning shot. The children screamed, get down. Everyone down. We flattened ourselves against the floorboards as bullets skimmed across the water. Almost there. Hold on. At last, our boat hit the Thai shore. Go. Run. We jumped out into the mud, stumbling, falling, scrambling toward safety. Help. Please help us. Thai locals rushed toward us and pulled us up onto the bank. We had made it. We were standing on Thai soil. Behind us, the Laotian police boat lingered at the border. They couldn't cross. We were safe. I collapsed onto the ground. My wife and kids fell beside me. Please take us to the Korean embassy, I begged. The Thai villagers. Korea? One of them repeated. Yes, Korea, North Korea refugee. They called the Thai police. I was terrified, but there was no turning back. When the police arrived, I pulled a crumpled sheet of paper from my pocket. It read, in Korean and English, I am a North Korean refugee. I wish to go to South Korea. Please contact the South Korean embassy. The officer read it, then radioed someone. An hour later, a staff member from the South Korean embassy arrived. Are you Kim Sung-hyuk's family? It was Korean, my own language. One I hadn't heard in over a month. Yes, that's us. I broke down in tears. You've been through so much, he said softly. You're safe now. The Republic of Korea will protect you. That day was December 24th, 2019, Christmas Eve, the day our family received the greatest gift of all. December 30th, 2019. I will never forget the feeling I had when we landed at Incheon International Airport. After spending a week at the South Korean embassy in Thailand, completing all the paperwork, we finally boarded a plane to South Korea. It was the first time any of us had ever been on an airplane. Honey, are those all lights? Is Seoul really that big? My wife stared out the window, amazed. The city below sparkled like a sea of stars, so bright and vast. Nothing like Pyongyang. At the airport, officials from the Ministry of Unification were there waiting for us. Welcome, you are now citizens of the Republic of Korea. The moment I heard those words, tears streamed down my face. We were taken to Hanawon, the settlement support center for North Korean refugees, where we would spend the next 3 months learning how to live in South Korean society. On the first day, we each received a room. All of this is ours, Jin Hyuk asked. with wide eyes. Yes, I said, this is our room. There were beds, desks, and a wardrobe, even a small private bathroom. It was smaller than our apartment in North Korea, but here, we were truly free. Our first week in Hanwon was overwhelming. You are free to speak and act however you want now. No one is watching you, an instructor told us, but we couldn't believe it easily. In North Korea, someone was always listening. We had lived our entire lives in fear. Mr. Kim, here you may criticize Kim Jong-un. If you want, no one will punish you. Is that really true? Yes, this is a free, democratic country. You have freedom of expression. Even then, it took me a long time to let go of the fear that had been drilled into me for over 40 years. We also received Korean language lessons. Mom, is South Korean really that different from ours? Yongbyon asked. Fascinated. It is. In the north we say "songgangi" instead of escalator, and we call ice cream "eorium basungi" here. It's different, so I have to learn Korean all over again. Just a little, don't worry. But the biggest shock came during the economics lessons. In South Korea, the instructor said, you must earn your own living. The government does not provide everything. No ration system. Someone asked, no rations. You work, earn a salary, and use that money to buy groceries and rent a home. How much is the monthly salary? The minimum wage is 8,510 won per hour. If you work full-time, you can make about 1.7 million won a month. 1.7 million won, an unimaginable amount. In North Korean terms, after 3 months, our training was complete, and we were finally allowed to enter society. The government provided financial support, settlement funds, housing assistance, job training, stipends, adding up to around 70 million won, a fortune by North Korean standards. We found a small apartment in Onsan, Gyeonggi Province, a modest 2-room unit, about 66 square meters. Honey, this whole place is ours. Yes, I said, this is our home. And the deposit, the government covered it? Yes, thankfully. When we received the keys and opened the door for the first time, the empty rooms made me emotional. This was the beginning of our real life. But the challenges soon began. Finding work. The first obstacle was employment. I had been a nuclear physicist in North Korea, but in South Korea, my degree wasn't recognized. To have your education recognized, you'll need to go through graduate school again. The counselor explained then. What can I do now? For the moment, we recommend retraining programs to help you learn new skills. At 41, I started learning basic computer skills from scratch. My wife became a teaching assistant at a local school, earning about 1.5 million won a month. Honey, can we really support a family of 4 on what I make? Of course, I told her. Here, it's possible, but her adjustment wasn't easy. In North Korea, she had been a full teacher. Here, she was helping young students who struggled even with basic Korean. Our children's adjustment. Yongbyon entered the second year of middle school. Socializing was difficult. Mom, kids say my accent sounds weird. Who said that? My classmates, they say I'm from the north. That's not teasing. My wife tried to reassure her. They're just curious. No, they called me a commie today. My wife went to the school. The homeroom teacher apologized, but changing children's prejudices wasn't simple. Jin Hyuk adapted more easily. He was younger. In 4th grade, He quickly made friends, Dad. I went to my friend's house today. Really? Did you have fun? Yes, he has an Xbox. It's amazing. Seeing the kids slowly find their place gave me hope. 1 year later, I found a job in a small manufacturing company, working in the quality control department. My salary was 3,000,001 a month. It was far from my old position as a PhD researcher, but I was grateful. My wife began attending night school to earn her full teaching credential. Yongbyon entered high school. After a rough start, she made friends and adapted well. Jin-hyuk joined the soccer team and spent every day running across the field. A spring day in 2021, our family went up to Namsan Tower. Wow, it's so high, the children whispered. The entire city lay before us, the Han River winding through skyscrapers, cars streaming along endless roads. Honey, my wife said softly, we really made it. Yes, I told her, we've come so far. If we had stayed in North Korea. I held her hand tightly. Yongbyon, Jin-hyuk, there's something I want to tell you. Yes, Dad, I brought you out of North Korea because I wanted you to grow up free. I wanted you to live in a place where no one can stop you from dreaming. I want to be a doctor someday, Yongbyon said. I want to be a soccer player, Jin-hyuk shouted. I pulled them both into my arms, tears in my eyes. In North Korea, their futures would have been assigned to them. They would have walked the paths the party chose. But here, in the Republic of Korea, it was different. They could dream. They could choose. 5 years later, I am back in graduate school now, studying physics again. My goal is to return to research with a South Korean degree this time. My wife is now a certified teacher, working with students from multicultural families and sharing her own experiences. Yongbyon has graduated high school and entered medical school. Her dream is coming true. Jin-hyuk, now in middle school, is captain of the soccer team and trains every day. Every year, our family climbs Namsan Tower once more, and we look north beyond the Tumen River, beyond the Yalu River, toward the 25 million people of North Korea who remain in darkness. Honey, do you think they'll ever find freedom too? My wife asks. They will. I answer, I believe they will. Freedom is a basic human right, something no regime can suppress. Forever and someday, I believe every North Korean will breathe freely, dream freely, and live freely, just as we do now. Until that day, I will keep telling my story, the truth about North Korea, the pain of escape, and the meaning of freedom. Thank you for listening to this long journey. This has been the true story of Kim Sung-hyuk, a former North Korean nuclear engineer, and how my family found freedom. Your support, your likes, comments, and encouragement means more to North Korean defectors than you can imagine. Thank you.